Hey, have you ever heard of Byron Allen? Well, if you haven't, then you're going to hear about him today. Today's show is a profile on Byron Allen.
Okay.
Hey, happy Monday. We hope everybody out there had a great weekend. Yeah, it was a pretty nice weekend here on the Northeast where we had some really nice weather as we prepare for Thanksgiving. Well, listen, we're about to go into a deep profile of Mr. Byron Allen, but before we do that, if you're into videos that talks about style, talks about fashion, talks about empowerment, and that talks about mindset, well, this is the channel for you. So don't forget, hit that subscribe button, hit the little notification bell so you'll know every time we upload a video. And if you're watching this on Facebook, give me a thumbs up, share the video, let everybody out there know about the show. Well, today's show is a profile on Mr. Byron Allen, and for those of you who don't know Mr. Byron Allen, he's the CEO and founder of Entertainment Studios and Allen Media Group.
Seems like just yesterday when Byron Allen was a skinny, 18-year-old stand-up comedian making his television debut on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. To this day, the youngest comic to ever earn that spot. More than 4 decades later, he has developed into the 59-year-old media mogul and multi-billion-dollar power player who gave an interview with The Hollywood Reporter where he was asked to voice his ultimate ambition. His answer, "I'd like to own CNN, and I will." At Black Enterprise, we know his audacious goal is possible. We have charted every step of Byron Allen's rise and the expansion of a global media empire that encompasses broadcast and cable television, motion pictures, and digital and streaming platforms. He's the force behind Entertainment Studios, which owns 10 24-hour HD television networks, including the Weather Channel. In 2016, he purchased The Griot, a digital news platform devoted to providing compelling entertainment, news, and lifestyle content for African Americans that currently boasts more than 20 million annual visitors. And last year, the visionary entrepreneur formed Allen Media Group, LLC, which includes 4 Big 4 stations across the country. There are other historic multi-million-dollar acquisitions and partnerships. Byron Allen is never standing still. As an outspoken critic of industry racism, he has earned respect and headlines for challenging major institutions, their discriminatory practices, and the broad implications for African Americans.
And I guess the biggest thing that they're known for is actually he owns the Weather Channel. And everyone out there knows about the Weather Channel, but he owns so many other channels. You're probably watching one of his shows every day on television and didn't even know it was him, or you may have seen some of the movies that he has produced. So let's get into a little bit of his story, and I have some clips of him that I will be showing throughout the show. So Byron Allen right now is 59 years of age, a billionaire, and has been doing some great things. Started off as a comedian, the youngest comedian ever to be on the Tonight Show, which of course is famous for Mr. Johnny Carson, and then we had Jay Leno, but long time running show, and Byron Allen actually was the youngest comedian ever to be featured on the Tonight Show. Born to a young mother, she had him at 16 years of age, but she struggled to make a life for herself and her young son, and what she did is that she went to school to learn about the media, and she actually got her first gig after graduating. She became an intern for NBC, and along with her was her little son, Byron. And so let me show you the clip where Byron talks about his early upbringing.
Oh, I'm very blessed.
My mother, she got pregnant with me when she was 16 years old and had me 17 days after her 17th birthday. And I was born in Detroit, Michigan. I just had a very good childhood. It was a great, Midwest, childhood. And, it was that blue collar. My dad worked at Ford Motor Company for over 30 years, and my granddaddy, my mom's side, worked at, Great Lakes Steel for over 30 years. These guys, I don't think they ever called in a day sick. And they were always trying to figure out how to put 36 hours into a 24-hour day. So I saw that great American blue collar work ethic, which always, stuck with me. These were, simply great Americans, hardworking Americans. My mother and I came out to LA, summer of '68, thought it was gonna be a 2-week vacation. And it ended up being a forever decision up until this point, right? Here in Los Angeles. And it was a 2-week vacation, and we ended up staying on a lot of sofas and floors and spare bedrooms when we could find them. And we did that for a while, the sofa surfing for about a couple of years. And finally we got a place. My mom, beautiful, she's brilliant. And she went to UCLA Film School. And because she was at UCLA studying to get her master's degree in cinema TV production, I used to go out there with her, to NBC, and she was able to get in the door because she asked them if they had well, first of all, she went to NBC and asked them for a job. They said no. And she asked a very important question that changed our lives forever, which is, do you have an intern program? And they said no. And then what changed everything for us is when she asked, will you start one with me? Can I work for you for free? And that was a very important question, and it was a great answer, and they said yes. And because she got a job out there at NBC, I was able to go out there with her. And as a child, I was exposed to a lot. And I was able to see something that I didn't know exists, that exposure is everything, especially when you're a young kid. At that point, I was 12 or 13 years old. And I would go and I would watch Johnny Carson tape The Tonight Show. And then I would walk across the hall and watch Red Fox tape Sanford & Son. And then I go down the hall and I would watch Freddie Prinze do Cheek on the Man. Then I go down the hall again and I would watch Flip Wilson do the Flip Wilson Show. And I watched Bob Hope do his specials. And I just went from studio to studio to studio.
So that was really, really fascinating on how he got his start. And then at a young age, he became a comedian and was able to get a gig writing for Jimmy J.J. Walker. And for those of you who don't know him, he's from a very popular show in the 70s called Good Times. And J.J. Walker was hot as he can be back in the 70s. And Byron Allen got a chance to write for Jimmy J.J. Walker in the 70s. And he wrote along with some famous names of people. So you know what? Let's go to this clip where he tells you a little bit about him as a young comedian.
And I just started performing at the Comedy Store when I was 13, 14 years old. It was summer of 75 or so, I believe it was, 74 or 75. And I was at the Comedy Store, and a young man saw me perform one of my first or second nights. I got there at like 9 in the morning to sign up because I wanted to make sure I was able to get on. I signed up, I got there at 9 in the morning, they let me on, and I just sat on the curb waiting for them to open the front doors and open the club and let us in. And so I sat there until about 7:30 at night. And they let me on at about 8 o'clock, and I performed for about 4 people and 240 chairs. And I got a few giggles from those 4 people, and I kept coming back. And this young guy saw me named Wayne Klein, and Wayne Klein asked me, who wrote those jokes? And I said, I did. And he says, I know somebody that may be interested in that material. Can I get your phone number? I said, sure. I got a call from a guy, and he says, hey, is this Byron? I said, yeah. He goes, this is Jimmy J.J. Walker. I go, wow. And Jimmy was hotter than the sun because he was on Good Times. This is, and this was the mid 70s, and he was Kid Dynamite.
Right.
And he said, my man Wayne Klein says you're funny. And if my man Wayne Klein says you're funny, then you must be funny. Would you like to write with us? And I go, well, let me ask my mom. He goes, oh, look at this. He's got to ask his mom. And so fortunately, my mother said yes. And I went to Jimmy's apartment, and I walked in there, and he's sitting there with Jay Leno, who had just, Jay Leno was sleeping in his car. And David Letterman, who had just driven out from Indianapolis in a red pickup truck because he didn't think he was going to make it. And he wanted to be able to get in his pickup truck and drive home. And Lane Klein and Marty Nadler, who went on to write and produce Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days. And I was a kid, and I got $25 for every joke I was able to come up with and sell to Jimmy Walker. And Jay Leno and David Letterman, they were sitting right next to me, and in Jimmy Walker's apartment in his living room in the mid-'70s, and they were getting $200 a week. And I just kept writing and performing and writing, and they offered me the Tonight Show when I was 17. And I turned it down because I didn't want to do the show, get offers, and not be able to accept them because I was still in high school. And fortunately, they offered it to me a second time, and I did it a couple of weeks before I graduated from high school. And it went well, and that got me a show called Real People.
As you can see, he's been alongside some famous comedians who made it very, very big, and you know their names, Jay Leno, David Letterman, and there was Byron Allen. So he goes on to then join a TV show, a very popular TV show called Real People, and it was actually the first reality TV show. And Byron goes on to star in that show along with some other young people, and he got into a contract dispute. And this contract dispute is what convinced him that he needed to go from being in front of the camera to behind the camera, and this started his journey on becoming an owner of his own media company. Let's take a look.
When I came out here to Los Angeles and I started, performing, I had a contract dispute. And in that contract dispute on Real People, I was asking to be paid in year 3 what my white counterparts were being paid in year 1. And they didn't want to do that. And, I wasn't on most of season 3, I think it was, because of that. And we ended up working things out for season 4 and season 5. But having someone tell me and my mom what I was worth, and it was a very painful experience. As a matter of fact, I was fired. I was fired for that period of time. And I had simply asked, can I get what my white counterparts got in year 1? Can I get that in year 3? And I realized at that moment that it's not show business, it's business show. And I made it a point to learn the business. Anyone can have an idea. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Anybody can, have those ideas and think, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. But it's not just the idea. Ideas are simple and they're not hard to come up with. It's execution and distribution and monetization of that idea. And that's what I said is you have to now master that. It's not show business, it's business show. And I made it a point to learn the business. And if you learn the business, you can put as many shows as you want on the air. And that's what I did. And that's when I went to my first NATPE, which is a television convention for people who own and operate television stations. And this will be my 40th, if we have it. I've gone 39 consecutive years since 1981. And I've made it a point to get to know everybody who owns and operates a television station.
Very, very interesting story on how a contract dispute, got him to start his own media company. And then he goes into the power of being persistent. And he talks about how he became persistent as he started creating content. And he started doing what he calls dialing and smiling. And he talks a little bit about how he just kept going on the grind and how he built up his media company. And it's an incredible story. Let's take a look.
And I just started putting shows on the air. And I put another. Next thing you know, I have over 65 television shows on the air and one of the largest privately held television libraries in the world. Thousands of hours. And I just never stopped smiling and dialing and smiling. And if I wanted to, I could have 500 shows on the air because I have studied business show, not show business. And if you don't study the business, then you will be temporary hired help. you will be flavor of the week, flavor of the month. And, they always say, get me, a hot star come along, and they'll say, who is that hot star? And then they'll say, get me that hot star. And then they'll say, get me, the next young version of that hot star. And then they'll say, who was that hot star? So they just kind of go through that evolution of who are they to who are they again. So I think it's important to really study the business. And I was really fortunate to do that. And that's what positioned me to go on to other things.
Was that the genesis of creating entertainment studios? You have 10 independent channels within entertainment. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. Now it's Allen Media Group. So Allen Media Group, I started from my dining room table in summer of '93, and I started, calling and all of these television stations and putting on a special, and then that special became a once a week show. And I literally called all 1,300 commercial television stations and asked them to carry my once a week 1 hour show for free. Entertainers with Byron Allen, where I'm interviewing 7 movie stars talking about, their latest movies. And I said, listen to the TV stations, there's 14 minutes of commercial time. I would like for you to keep 7 minutes, sell your 7 minutes to local advertisers, local car dealers, banks, supermarkets, and I will sell my 7 minutes to national advertisers. And so it's a barter arrangement. And literally I got about 50 no's from every television station. And after about 40 or 50,000 no's, I was able to squeeze out 150 yeses. And I had a TV station in about 150 markets that said yes. And that was my lineup. And that took me a year, and from sun up to sundown to do that. And that I literally wore holes in my dining room chairs to get that done. And my home went in and out of foreclosure probably 14 times over a 5-year period. There were days I didn't eat. There were days I was calling people from a payphone because they turned my phone off. And I just kept smiling and dialing. And finally, I sat down with all the heads of the movie studios. And I said, listen, you guys are spending 200 to 600 million a year each promoting these movies, buying commercials, go see this movie, go see this movie. And I said, I'm having your movie stars on and I'm running clips and movie trailers from your movies. I'm basically a 1 hour commercial for you to tell people to go to your movies. Why don't you spend a little bit of money on me out of your 200 to 600 million a year in ad expenditures so I can be there to support you. Well, I ended up signing up all the movie studios. And once I solidified the movie industry, I was able to go on the road and eat regularly and pay my phone bill. And I just went industry by industry. And I went and I sat down with, the fast food companies and soft drinks and packaged goods and automotive, pharmaceuticals. And I would sit down with, board members or chief marketing officers, chairmen, CEOs, whoever would talk to me, the receptionist. And I was able to sign up more industries and more advertisers. And once I was able to solidify, relationships with quite a few advertisers, I then kept smiling and dialing and adding another show, and more advertisers, and another show and more advertisers.
He starts to build his media company, and he gets an opportunity and he bids on the Weather Channel. And that really, really elevated him as he started to make some really, really good money. And he started doing some great things. But Byron Allen, being a black man in the media world, started to realize that he was not getting his fair shake, and Black America were not getting their fair shake. And he talks about something that he calls the 4 Ds. And it's really, really intriguing about the 4 Ds. So I'm gonna let him tell you all about it.
What happens, especially with black people, they put those 4 Ds on us. First, they dismiss us. Oh, you just, come on, stop all that. Then when you get a little upset about it, then they discredit you, that second D. And then when you get really upset because they're dismissing you and they're discrediting you, then they move on to that 3rd D, they demonize you. And they need to get to that 3rd D, that demonizing D, because they want to move on to that 4th D, and they have to demonize you to be in check with their so-called Christian selves. They have to demonize you so they get to that 4th D, destroy you. And I thought, well, the best way to work through that matrix is through lawsuits. And if I file lawsuits, you can't dismiss me. Here's a $20 billion lawsuit. You can't discredit me. I'm still a smiling, happy Negro. And you can't, classify me as the angry Negro. And you can't demonize me. I'm using your process. I'm using your legal system. And you can't destroy me, because even if you destroy me, the lawsuit will live on. So that is for wealthy white America, for wealthy white corporate America. The kryptonite is litigation. And I felt like the only way to get around that matrix of the 4Ds, and after I decoded what was happening, what was I experiencing, what was I witnessing? I was witnessing and experiencing the 4Ds. I said, now how do I get around it? And I said, litigation. So you start staffing up. And I started hiring lawyers, litigators who work full time for me. So I built a law firm inside my company. And I said, and here's who we go after. And we stay with them. Usually Black people have to go to the Supreme Court to get white people off our asses. This is the first time white people had to go to the Supreme Court to get a Negro off their asses. So after 400 years and me investing millions and millions of dollars in time and energy, we were able to bring it to a resolution. And that was the key. So I think litigation is the best pathway. And I think if Black America takes a back seat and looks at it, takes a step back and look at it, Black America say, well, white corporate America is not doing business with us anywhere.
Byron also starts to talk about how Black America is being shortchanged and how they're trying to use this 4Ds against us, but he was smart enough to use the legal system, which was created by white people, against them. And it's so interesting how you start to use the weapons that's used against us against the people that created the weapons, and how you start to see that you will come out ahead. Well, he goes on and he's created this great media company, but he's using the legal system to start to sue some of the big name companies because they're not giving him and his company fair access. And one thing that Byron talks about, which I thought was fantastic, and we're going to see in a few minutes, he talks about the difference between cash flow and wealth. And there's a big difference between a person that has great cash flow and a person that has real wealth. And what he's saying is that Black America doesn't have real wealth. They have great cash flow, but they don't have real wealth. Let's take a look.
So I will tell you that the greatest trade deficit in America is the trade deficit between corporate America and Black America. And that trade deficit has manifested itself into lack of real wealth in our communities. Where Black people, we have good cash flow, white people have wealth. Black people have, good cash flow, make 100, make 50, 100 million a year, 200 million a year for a period of time. But wealth is when you have 3-4 billion and it's bringing in 500 million a year from your investments. That's the difference between cash flow, a good run in your life of making some money, versus wealth, where you have assets that are bringing in enormous amount of capital. I always tell young kids, pimp your money, don't let your money pimp you. And if you're out there trying to, make money, you're getting pimped by money. But if you are investing money and that money is bringing back 100, 200, 300 million a year, now you're doing it right. That's wealth. Pimp your money, don't let your money pimp you. So when I decided to file these lawsuits, I decided to file these lawsuits because it was something that Coretta Scott King had said to me years ago. I had bought the rights to her story. I wanted to look at Martin Luther King through her eyes. And because I said no one knew Martin Luther King better than her. And excuse me. And she said to me, Coretta said to me, Byron, as Black people, we had 4 major challenges. Number 1, end slavery. Number 2, end Jim Crow, which I think was more damaging than slavery, because that's when they started hunting us and killing us and lynching us and incarcerating us. and just committing genocide against us. And then she said, number 3, achieve civil rights. And then she choked up and she said, number 4, the real reason they killed my Martin, achieve economic inclusion. And it was, I had like, wow. And she said, they didn't kill him because of the I Have a Dream speech. She said, we had already achieved civil rights by the time they killed him. She said, it was the other America, that speech, the speech he gave at Stanford University, the other America, where he said and he was the great prophet. He said, there are 2 Americas. One America has access to opportunity, jobs, mentorship, education, capital that's not predatory. The other America doesn't. 2 Americas will not survive. We need 1 America.
So there you have it, Mr. Byron Allen. He goes into some really, really deep conversations, but I really wanted to profile him because I wanted all of you out there to know that, you can do it. You can create real wealth. You just have to understand how to play the game. It's all about understanding the rules of the game. And a lot of times, they change the rules on us. When we start to become successful, they will change the rules on us. Right in the middle of the game, all of a sudden, you can take the basketball and you can take more than 2 steps and go to the basket. You can take 3 steps. You foul someone and it's not a foul any longer. It's really, really funny how they would change the rules of the game to kind of hold us back. But you know what? It's our job and our duty to continue to learn the rules of the game. When they change the rules, we learn the new rules, we adapt, and we keep it moving. So I'm hoping that this show today will give somebody out there the inspiration to make things happen, following the footsteps of a Byron Allen who's been out there for 40 years, been fighting the good fight, and is continuing to fight the good fight. Well, that's our show for this week, and I will see you next week.